Hey everybody, how's it going? I know I'm doing great. It's finally like kind of warm in Minnesota. It's like 50 whole degrees outside. And like 99% of the snow is melted. There's still like some like random piles of snow that are like scattered about, which I don't know why that happens. But finally, like the sidewalks don't have any ice on them, so you're not like slipping every couple of minutes and like almost falling and embarrassing yourselves. Also, it's kind of nice to go outside. It doesn't hurt to have exposed skin when you're outside. So I'm actually feeling like kind of happy this week, which is unusual. But you don't care about any of that, I bet. You came here to hear about some weird news. Big thing that happened, I guess, last week. The Sunlight Protection Act passed the Senate. If the Sunlight Protection Act passes the House of Representatives, which it hasn't done yet, and is signed into law by the president, it would make daylight savings time permanent. So in 2023, we wouldn't have to change the clocks, and in the winter, we would have an hour later sunrise, and we would have an hour later sunset, but that only in the winter. Okay. But I'm sure you've heard about all of that. But the first time I've heard about this, I thought, oh good, like this is a very like non-controversial thing that like everybody will like, and it won't be controversial at all. I was mistaken. There are so many people like on the internet with opinions, and it pisses me off. There's this article here, and it's just like the main argument I hear is that like the sunrises in the winter are just going to be too late. It's going to be like ridiculous. Like it says in the Twin Cities, which is where I live, on January 1st of this year, if daylight savings time had become permanent earlier, I guess, that the sunrise wouldn't have like the sunrise wouldn't have occurred until like almost 9 o'clock. And they're like, that's just too ridiculous. But I'm like, okay, but of January 1st of this year, daylight savings time wasn't permanent, and we did have a sunrise that was closer to like 8 a.m., which is like more reasonable, but the sunset happened before like 4:30 a.m. I mean 4:30 p.m., which is like ridiculous. Like I think it might have been a little later than that, but you get the idea. It was around 4:30 p.m., I think. And my big point in bringing this up is that like you can't have like both a reasonable sunrise and a reasonable sunset in the winter because the days are so short anyways. Like, so people are saying like, oh, with permanent daylight savings time, the sunrises are going to be too like unreasonable. Well, I would argue that like without making it permanent, that the sunsets time are kind of unreasonable. To like to have the sunset before 4:30, I don't know. It seems like kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Like either way, you're gonna have one time that's like unreasonable, and I think people are missing like the big picture, which is like the actual negative effects of like changing your clock, of the actual effects that has on you. I have this article, and these are like the negative effects of daylight savings time, of the time change. A Swedish study found that the risk of having a heart attack increases in the first 3 weekdays after switching to daylight savings time in the spring. Tiredness induced by the clock change is thought to be a main cause for the increase in traffic accidents on the Monday following the start of daylight savings time. On Mondays after the start of daylight savings time, there were more workplace injuries, and the injuries were of greater severity compared to other Mondays. And this is something I didn't know. The start of daylight savings time has also been linked to miscarriages for in vitro fertilization patients, which I didn't know before reading this article. Another thing I didn't know, daylight savings time can cause depression. A Danish study found that there's an 11% increase in depression cases after the time change, and this effect lasted for 10 weeks after the daylight savings time, this increase in depression. And another study found that male suicide rates increased the days after fall and spring daylight savings time shift. Like, this is like real. You see like depression like increase a very significant amount for 10 weeks, and like the amount of heart attacks increase, and the amount of like traffic accidents, including, I think I read somewhere that the amount of fatal traffic accidents also significantly increases. I think it's much worse to continue having the time change than to like make it permanent, right? Meaning like to have standard time permanent or daylight savings time permanent. I don't know. But there is one thing I thought was interesting. Well, there's a few things I thought were interesting. You always hear about people that say like, oh, daylight savings time is like because of the farmers or something. According to this Wikipedia article, that's actually not true. Apparently, if I can find it, I just had it. Many farmers actually oppose daylight savings time, particularly dairy farmers, as the milking patterns of their cows do not change with time. Cows do not participate in daylight savings time. They have to be milked at the same time, and that it's like an inconvenience to farmers, or to dairy farmers. And I know it gets like all farmers and like other people whose hours are set by the sun. That's probably a huge daylight savings time change is like a huge inconvenience to them, I'd imagine. It's actually, the reason for daylight savings time is it was thought to be able to conserve more energy. But everything I've read basically says that the savings from daylight savings time, the energy savings is like insignificant. It's very, very small. It's probably not worth all of the hassle. There's something else that was interesting. In the American Economic Journal, Applied Economics, they estimated that there was a study that estimated that the transition into DST, daylight savings time, caused over 30 deaths at a social cost of $275 million annually, primarily by increasing sleep deprivation. You can see that this is like an actual like real negative effect. And this is why I think all these like arguments are petty, like that we shouldn't have permanent daylight savings time, because like we'll have it too late of sunrises. That doesn't like I just don't think like later sunrises are that big of a deal when the alternative is like 30 people dying and $275 million lost due to daylight savings time, at least according to this study. I'm not sure. It could be inaccurate, I guess. But there is something that like, this is another thing I didn't know, and something that like fills me with kind of pessimism about this whole ordeal. Apparently in the 1970s, they actually did repeal, or they tried permanent daylight savings time in the 1970s. It was during the energy crisis. It was thought that maybe if we repeal, or if we made daylight savings time permanent, that could conserve more energy. I don't think the energy savings were like that significant, but they were going to try it for 2 years. But apparently it was so unpopular that they had to repeal it before the 2 years were up. People just didn't like the later sunrises, I guess. So it's entirely possible that that's what happens in 2023, is that it's just very unpopular to have later sunrises. Even if the alternative means 30 people die every year, and an increase in depression and heart attacks and workplace accidents, I guess people don't care. They'd rather have, it's possible that they like don't care about any of that and want to go back to daylight savings time changes. I don't know. I hope that that's not what happens. I hope everybody is on board with this, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens, basically. This next story is kind of funny. There's this guy that broke into a shoe store in Miami. He couldn't make it through the front doors, so he ended up going to the ceiling somehow, and he cut a hole in the ceiling to get into the store, and he stole 20 shoes. What he didn't realize was that the 20 shoes that he stole were from like a display rack, all of which were left shoes. He stole 20 left shoes, so he didn't even get like a single like matching pair. Well, he might have gotten a matching pair. No, because they're all left. He didn't get a single matching pair of shoes. And the thing that's like really sad is like the damage that this guy inflicted on the store was much greater. The damage from opening up the ceiling, from breaking the ceiling and entering that way, was much greater than whatever he stole in shoes. The 20 left shoes that he stole. $15,000 to $20,000 in damages this guy did. And he didn't even get a pair of shoes. Wow. Very, very stupid. Let's move on. Oh yeah, St. Patrick's Day was last Thursday, so I have a few St. Patrick's Day stories to share with you. Wisconsin woman collects 1 4-leaf clover a day for 258 days. She's trying to set a world record, which apparently doesn't exist. I wonder why. But she's like making up a world record, right? That she wants to... That she already has collected a 4-leaf clover every day in 2021. That she could. From March 22nd until the first heavy snow that fell on December 4th, which is impressive, but it also kind of feels like a waste of time. But you know what? I hope she gets the record. It's kind of fun, you know. How do you even find a 4-leaf clover? I don't know. Let's just move on to our next St. Patty's Day article. Giant human shamrock, which you can see here. 1,200 people. That doesn't look like... I guess it could be 1,200 people. They donned green and formed themselves into the shape of shamrock in New York State. The most participants in a giant human shamrock. And this is kind of funny. The Dublin airport issues a St. Patrick's Day plea for proper spelling. Apparently, it's if you want to abbreviate it, it's St. Paddy's Day, P-A-D-D-Y, and not Patty, P-A-T-T-Y. Patty, P-A-T-T-Y, is a popular nickname for the name Patricia, which is like, you know, a female name. They're like, please, like, spell it right, because everybody gets it wrong. I think that is very sad. March 17th is St. Patrick's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Patrick's Day, St. Patty's Day, or Patty's Day. It is not St. Patty's Day or Patty's Day. Not this year, not last year, not ever. Happy St. Patrick's Day from Dublin Airport. That's their little sign, what their little sign read. Let's move on. Potatoes. This giant potato. This woman in New Zealand has grown what she believes is the world's largest potato. But it turns out she previously believed it was the world's largest potato. Apparently it's not. It's the tuber of a gourd. I don't even know what that is. But apparently it's not a potato. They had to like get it sent, like DNA tested, like this potato, in order to verify the record. Very, very sad. But the reason I bring this up is because I just think it's so adorable how excited this like couple is about having this giant potato. They have named this potato Doug after the way it was unearthed. They dug it up. And it's become something of a local celebrity after the couple began posting photos of it on Facebook with a hat on, and even built a cart to tow it around, which is adorable. Also kind of sad, but mostly adorable. Craig Brown, who found this potato, was one of the people. It was a couple that found it. He says the potato still sits in their freezer. He says, and I quote, "I say good day," except it's New Zealand. "I say good day to him." I can't do New Zealand. "I say good day to him every time I pull out the sausages. He's a cool character. Whenever the grandchildren come around, they say, 'Can we see Doug?' Doug is the destroyer from down under. He is the world's biggest nut of potato." There you go. And apparently they're trying to set the record for an actual potato grown, the actual largest potatoes grown. So hopefully that works out. I know I'll be watching this story carefully. Do we have anything else? No. Oh, that's it. Wow. All right. Goodbye.